I don't even know how to start because my heart is so full seeing all of you here. Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome. Yes, yes, woohoo, welcome. I'm Modupe Akinola, the Barbara and David Zelaznik Professor of Business and the Faculty Director of the Bernstein Center for Leadership and Ethics. It is such a pleasure to be here and to have this moment to celebrate our 150 Embracing Our Legacy. And I'm here, I have the privilege of being here with Haley Mason, who is a first year. She is a proud member of the BBSA, that would be the Black Business Student Association. And we just want to welcome you to this wonderful celebration. Welcome.
And thank you, Professor Akinola. It's truly an honor for me to be here. Again, I am Haley Mason, and I have to say, wow. It is incredible to see these seats filled and to see this dream come to fruition tonight. I see my classmates, CBS students, our faculty, staff, alum, and supporters of our CBS community, all here to celebrate 2 milestones for CBS tonight. Our 150 celebration came to be because one person decided to change the course of history by betting on herself at a time when no one else would. Fellow Howard alumnus, Theodore Rutherford. Theodore Rutherford matriculated through CBS a century ago. She became the first Black student to graduate with a master's degree in accounting in the class of 1924. Through sheer grit and determination, she paved the way for so many, even in the face of all odds. Tonight, we honor her journey, and we share more about what it meant to be the first at CBS. And 50 years after Theodora started her CBS journey, a group of Black MBA students came together to form a support network and community outside of the classroom, a safe place to congregate. It started as a humble beginning. What blossomed, though, became the formation of the oldest affinity group at the school, with the official establishment of the Black Business Students Association in 1973.
So we're embarking on a year-long celebration, and our theme is honor, celebrate, and educate. Why these 3 words that were carefully chosen? Honoring the impact and contribution of Black students at this school and of Black alums and all that too. To celebrate Black excellence and thought leadership. And also to educate on the true, authentic experiences and stories of our students, of our alum, of our staff, of our community that has contributed to CBS being what it is.
Thank you for that note. Before we get into our program tonight, we would like to first take a moment for silent reflection. May we honor the lives of those who have come before us. May we mourn present injustices and demand greater. May we pay homage for the sacrifices made that allow us to be in this space, striving to be better for ourselves, better for our communities. May we speak the names of our ancestors and honor the lives that have come and gone before us.
Thank you for opening your hearts for that moment. Because it's true, we really do stand on the shoulders of giants. And there is one giant in here, there are many, but one in particular whose shoulders many of us have stood on. And I would like to introduce him up here, Michael Robinson. Yes. He's the Assistant Dean of Engagement and a notable alum. And he is one of the people who several years ago said, we need to remember to celebrate this, we need to start thinking about this, we need to start planning this, and continued to chat about it, and this is happening now as a result of this giant whose shoulders we stand on. So Michael, please join us.
Thank you so much, Modupe. Thank you, Haley. My heart is really, really full today. because I look at in this audience and I see so many faces, so many lives that touched me, and hopefully I was helpful to you in your process. I'm bursting with pride, and I have a sense of immense gratitude for all the work, all the effort that made tonight's kickoff event possible. To the 150 committee, thank you. The simple truth is this: narratives matter. Storytelling matters. If we aren't intentional about telling our stories, all of our stories, then that history not celebrated becomes history forgotten. And far too often, history forgotten can become history denied, legacy denied. So let me be really, really clear. The important work of unearthing more stories and celebrating these stories will not end with this milestone year at CBS. This is a starting point, and we commit to being more intentional about the work. Tonight, we rightly celebrate a courageous trailblazer, Theodora Rutherford, a proud HU graduate who came to Columbia Business School to further her dream of being an accountant. And I still remember the excitement that the research team felt when the archivist at Howard shared 100-year-old images of Theodora from an old campus publication called The Bison. And in that same issue, there are images and writings of another trailblazer, one of our classmates, Zora Neale Hurston, the literary icon. So it's the early 20s, and students like Theodora and Zora were breaking barriers and charting new paths. Both women were leaders. Remember that women in the 1920s generally were not encouraged to pursue business careers. Theodora did it anyway. We found this 100-year-old photo of the members of the business-focused student club at Howard. And in the picture, you see 3 women surrounded by 40 men. Theodora, unsurprisingly, was front and center. She was an editor for the school's business magazine, while Zora was co-founder of Howard's newspaper and edited the literary magazine. Like Theodora, Zora got a scholarship to grad school at Columbia, studied under Frank Boas, widely acknowledged as the father of American anthropology. Beyond her writing fame, Hurston was arguably the first female Black filmmaker, a 2-time Guggenheim Fellow, an accomplished cultural anthropologist. Yet after the publication of her 1937 classic, Their Eyes Were Watching God, she would struggle so much financially that she had to work as a maid and eventually had to live in a county welfare home for women. When she died in 1960, she was buried in an unmarked grave. Tonight, our focus is on Theodora, and rightly so. But I draw the parallel to Zora Neale Hurston because it provides a very powerful example of what happens when folks stop paying attention. Once you stop being intentional, even the most celebrated stories, the brightest lights, will dim and fade away. So we acknowledge the tenacity and spirit of our trailblazer, Theodora, so that her story will live on. And it's a story that we have to tell and a story that we have to celebrate. Much of what we know about Theodora comes from a very powerful example of allyship from the work of an academic and accounting professor, Teresa Hammond, who as a young doctoral student had this deep commitment to research and document the experience of Blacks in the accounting profession. Her dissertation formed the basis of a seminal book that chronicled the history of Black CPAs. In fact, much of what we know about the first 60 years about the experience of Black CPAs comes from her groundbreaking research. When you actually hear Theodora's voice, it is from a Teresa Hammond interview. Theodora Rutherford was brilliant. She was 19 years old when she graduated from Howard. She had the best scholastic record of any student in Howard School of Commerce and Finance, earning her scholarships to Harvard and Columbia for grad school, thinking that New York City would have more opportunities. She chose Columbia, but it was a difficult and socially isolated experience. None of her white classmates would eat with her in public. But Theodora, true to her nature, would persevere, and in 1924, with her MS in accounting, became the first Black graduate of Columbia Business School. According to Hammond's research, in the mid-1920s, only about 36% of the CPAs born in the United States had a college degree. In fact, there was no state in the country that required CPAs to have a college degree. However, the credential required work experience at a CPA firm. So with her CBS degree in hand, Theodora began her job search, but no accounting firm would hire her. This kind of discrimination was rampant and pervasive and would endure for decades. As late as 1965, of the 100,000 CPAs that were in the United States, only 100 were Black. I can only imagine Theodora's frustration. Black brilliance being turned away by men not as smart as she was, men not as capable as she was, men not as credentialed. There's a famous poem by Langston Hughes called Harlem that opens with a question. What happens to a dream deferred? For Theodora, it didn't dry up or fester. She held on to it. Denied her dream, then she turned to teaching at an HBCU in West Virginia and began this lifelong commitment to developing other people. She kept at it and persevered until she finally got her CPA in 1960, 36 years after getting her Columbia degree. Despite the gap of almost 4 decades, Theodora was the first African American in the entire state of West Virginia to get a CPA. This is the resilient foundation, the shoulders upon which every single Black graduate of this school stands on. Theodora was our first giant, and we are eternally grateful. While her spirit is in this room, Theodora passed on from this life in 1993, but we are honored today to have her great niece in the audience, Dale Dobson. Dale helped us shape how we honor Theodora as only a family member can. And for that, we asked Dale to kind of stand. Where are you, Dale? Okay. I want to close with a few words about our beloved BBSA and what it represents. For decades after Theodora matriculated at Columbia, there were never more than a handful of Black students in a class. Numbers so small that you could literally count them on one hand without using all your fingers. For those early pioneers, it was a lonely experience, sometimes a painful experience, as they were often surrounded by folks who did not see them and certainly did not believe in their potential. So once established, the BBSA for many was and still is a home base, a safe space that to many of us felt like family. Over the course of this year, the 150 Committee will release several short-form videos that will help tell the BBSA story and to help preserve the important legacy. So tonight we're going to premiere the first trailer for this series. Theodore Rutherford was the first Black student to attend Columbia Business School.
Listen, you don't know what things were suffered by Black people at that time.
I can only imagine what Theodora experienced in the 1920s here at Columbia. I absolutely carry her legacy and every person's legacy who's come before us.
I attended Columbia Business School from 1976 to 1978. It was two Columbias. You know, there were the white students and the Black students. We all had very high esteem of ourselves. We had no question in our minds that we couldn't perform at the very highest levels.
I remember my first day at CBS. I remember when the teacher walked in, we all looked at each other, kind of all said, okay, here we go, and the journey began. I'm about to do something game-changing in my career, and I was not wrong.
I looked at this business school experience as an opportunity to take a bet on myself in every way, shape, or form.
I feel like I have the best job in the world where I get to teach 280 students every year, and I feel like I learn and grow, and to be able to help develop the next generation of business leaders is a gift and a privilege.
I can't really even imagine what my experience would have been like without the BBSA. It was a very important organization to me and really helped shape my experience very positively at CBS.
We are the descendants of extreme resilience. There's a lot of pride there, and I think a lot of responsibility to continue to carry the torch, to not become complacent, and to strive to continue to expand the balloon of what's possible.
So that's a teaser, but a lot more to come throughout the year. Now we're going to take a moment to celebrate the present, and we'll hear from our current BBSA co-presidents, Renee Sowell and Martavius Leonard, who will share a bit more about the BBSA history and also speak to the importance of the BBSA to students at Columbia and beyond. Renee, Martavius.
"1973 was an incredible moment for Black people here in America. 1973, the year that Hank Aaron began forging a path to surpass Babe Ruth's career home run record, which he would successfully complete in 1974. 1973, the year that civil rights activist Marian Wright Edelman establishes the Children's Defense Fund as a voice for poor, minority, and disabled children. 1973, the year Maynard H. Jackson Jr. is elected as the first Black mayor of Atlanta, Georgia, with nearly 60% of the vote, and the first to be elected in any major Southern city. 1973, the year that the Black Business Students Association at Columbia Business School was established, providing a mechanism for Black students at CBS to thrive. Good evening, my name is Martavius Leonard. I am a second-year MBA candidate here at Columbia Business School.
And good evening. My name is Renee Sewell. I'm a second-year MBA candidate at Columbia Business School.
And we have the honor of serving as the co-presidents of the BBSA during this historic 2022-2023 academic year. We are incredibly honored to follow in the footsteps of past BBSA presidents, including James Clark II, Arthur Polk, Nicole Pullen Ross, Robert F. Smith, Keisha Phipps, and countless others, and we are excited to see continued growth within our community. The 1970s was truly a reckoning period, in an era of many firsts of our Black community, as we began cultivating a newfound sense of pride, layers of freedom, and an insatiable hunger to break barriers. It represents a period of rewriting the script and curating the inclusive future that is imperative for growth within our community. Black students at Columbia Business School recognize both their individual and collective power as MBA students by actively redefining a space that was traditionally not designed for students of color and embracing the intrinsic value of community. It is the power of our community that compels each of us to shatter glass ceilings, expand our imaginations, and unlock new versions of ourselves throughout the MBA journey.
Theodora and I are a part of a similar community as members of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. That binds us through 100 years of CBS history. We both understood the impact of not only finding a safe place for us to be ourselves and support each other, but also to cultivate our community and to be of service to all mankind. This is why the BBSA is so important as we lean on each other for support. Martavius and I, we still remember our application journey into CBS and the unwavering emotion of feeling doubtful, weary, and unsure if we'd belong as first-generation students. It was the community at BBSA and CBS that instilled the confidence in ourselves to take space. From the current students at the time to the alums paving the way in the very industries we wanted to break into, everything felt within reach when connecting with BBSA members because the strong, supportive community reminded us of our power as Black students. This strong community also reminds our allies the power of diversity, equity, and inclusion in academia. Our BBSA community represents a rich perspective from our diasporic upbringings as African Americans, Caribbeans, and Africans that adds a layer of enriched global perspective to the dynamic classroom discussions on the future of business. Our BBSA members are also paving the way in reshaping the culture at CBS and embedding the inclusivity in every touch point on campus as general student body presidents, orientation peer advisors, and presidents of several professional clubs on campus, like the Management Consulting Club, Innovation and Design Club, Media Management Association, and the Newfound Beauty Club. It is our collective impact, coupled with the evolving cultural changes at CBS, that led us to now have the largest BBSA membership class in history of over 150 Black identifying students. With CBS inclusion into the consortium network, access to higher education is now even more possible with additional merit scholarships for Black, Brown, Hispanic, and other minorities who are dedicated to fostering inclusion in these spaces. We're so grateful for the continued investment in BBSA and the 4A Scholarship Fund. It creates opportunities for us students to reimagine what's possible and with the financial resources for an Ivy League education that can change the entire trajectory of our lives. Sponsoring BBSA also amplifies our impact on campus and creates a safe haven for our community. With a membership of this magnitude, it is crucial for us to continuously identify opportunities to ameliorate the MBA experience for our members.
Our executive board continues several traditions in BBSA programming and events that allow us to showcase the power of our community. From inviting prospective students into our community at Diversity Matters, to fellowshipping with our peers at our annual Theodore Rutherford Retreat, we provide ample opportunities to create space for each other's professional and personal development. This year, we included several wellness activities, such as the Women's and Men's Retreat, for us to lean on each other as we navigate the joys and tribulations of the business school experience as Black students. But by far, our most coveted event to date is our annual Elevate Conference, which will take place this year on March 31st through April 1st. Established in 1981, Elevate is the longest running student-organized event at Columbia Business School and is a nationally recognized conference for minority professionals to connect and prepare for high-impact leadership. Our theme, Epic Ascents, Breaking Barriers and Reaching New Heights, will seek to honor industry changemakers while providing attendees with tangible resources for career development. This year marks the 41st anniversary of the conference's inception and will set the stage for the next generation of business leaders at CBS and beyond. In closing, we thank each of you for your unwavering support and commitment to the VBSA. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee and Martavius, for your leadership. And I can't tell you what it felt like on February 1st to walk into Kravis and to see a bunch of the members of the BBSA and to hear, "Happy Black History Month, Professor Akinola." I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And there was music, DJ, they did all these great things. So thank you all for your presence, feeling your presence, and for all you do. I have the opportunity to recognize a special group that has joined us in the audience today. And they are the Harlem Small Business Development Center, which is an essential center at CBS. And its focus, it's committed to supporting the economic sustainability of our Harlem community and beyond. And we're joined by their inaugural class of high school students from the First Generation Entrepreneurs Program. And this program equips students with key financial management and literacy skills in order to prepare them for higher education and a career in business. And so tonight, we not only have the first class of graduates with us, but the Commissioner of the New York City Department of Youth and Community Development, Keith Howard. So if you could please stand, Keith Howard, and if you could stand the members that are here, that would be lovely. Yes! All right. Thank you for being here, for celebrating this special moment, and congratulations to each of you. And now it's my honor to introduce the Dean of the Business School, Costis Maglaris. And I have to say that a year ago when we started planning this, we were thinking, okay, we need to get this together, we need to get this organized, and then we'll meet with Costis and we'll lay it all out and da-da-da. And we met with Costis, and he was like, this is great, why don't we add this and we do this? And we were like, Costis, do you want this to be a year long or a 5-year long or a 10-year long? And I share that story because it shows and it tells you so much about his commitment to us, commitment to what this school is all about, and commitment to Columbia Business School being a model of what it looks like to be diverse, inclusive, and to care about our communities. So come on up, Costis.
So I am going to keep my comments short. For the simple reason that we have heard incredible things, and we're up for a treat in a bit. But what I want to do is I want to welcome everyone to the school and welcome all of you for being excited to be part of this journey, of this celebration of the 150 Legacy, Embracing Our Legacy campaign, and sort of joining along with us. This is historic anniversaries, historic for us. It's historic that they happen to coincide in time so that we can be celebrating both simultaneously and to really take time to do what Michael was mentioning earlier, to recognize, to create a narrative, to reflect back on what this meant, and to celebrate. And I'm, super happy to say that this is really, truly just the beginning of a series of events that we're going to have throughout this year to mark this celebration. But it's truly just part of our journey, okay, which is what Modupe was mentioning earlier. So I want to thank you, a few people, and one in particular that I'm going to thank twice, but I'm going to start by thanking Franz Cayo. Franz is an amazing alum of the school who came back to lend his expertise for us to plan events, media, PR, and to drive this very long campaign with us as our director for the 150. I'll thank, the person that I'll thank twice is, I'm going to just mention, is Michael Robinson. So I'll thank Michael Michael is an outstanding alum, but for all of us at the school, he is an outstanding partner that I'm pretty sure has touched the lives of many people here in the audience. And it's his dedication, particularly in the area of diversity, that has driven transformation at the school. So, and his partnership with me, the thing that we heard about the consortium, the fact that we have the largest BBSA group right now is really through our partnership over the last 3 years, because we doubled our numbers in the past 3 years by being completely committed and dedicated. My good friend, Modupe, Professor Akinola, who is an exceptional thought leader in everything that we do at the school, certainly everything that we do around diversity, but Modupe is truly a leader at the school for students, for faculty, for staff, for alumni, sometimes overtaxing her, but we're working on that as well. But she has been a partner since day one. She's also partially responsible for me being here because she was in the Dean Search Committee. So, somehow she has to be a good partner, if nothing else. Haley Mason, that we heard from earlier today, for co-hosting this event and showcasing truly the future of our students here at the business school. Our two fearless BBSA leaders that follow on a long tradition of incredible individual, Renee Mortavius, that we just heard from, for leading the BBSA during this milestone year. And finally, our leaders of our 4A group, Jen Randall and Kara Reed. We have felt a groundswell of support for everything that you do. And we're excited to be partnering in that journey. I was talking to Jen a few minutes ago that it seems like we're seeing each other every other week in California, now in New York, and in 2 days having dinner in Miami. So, pretty good. Now, if I've called your name, I would truly appreciate if you stand up for everyone to recognize who we're all talking about, and everybody that has been serving in the committees and putting the work. So thank you, because this is a wonderful celebration, and it's taking a lot of work and commitment and love. So thank you all. So I'll circle back, and I'll circle back briefly to Michael, because this whole celebration, I attribute it 100% to him. I remember the day that we were having a BBSA event that I was invited when I first became dean. That was in the fall of 2019. It was in URIS 141, for those of you that remember URIS Hall. It was in person, pre-COVID, and Michael walked us through a presentation of the history of Black students at the school, mentioning Theodora and her arrival at the school as the first Black student in 1923, and then going through to talk about BBSA and everything that has happened since then. And it was during that time, right after that meeting, that he and I chatted, and he said, you know, we should celebrate that. And we really put a mark down to celebrate it in 2023, which is now, today. You know, he had been a champion, of course, for about 20 years at the school. This celebration is truly the fact that he had kept that history alive. You know, we would go into these meetings. That was the first time I heard it, and, you know, recognized it, but I am pretty sure that that was something that the narrative that he kept alive for all of the students that had come before and after. So thank you, Michael, for that. Thank you. Now, this is a celebration of two huge milestones for the school and for our community and for all that we have done. But a truly, and the personal level, I don't want to imply that this is a celebration of sort of extreme sort of recognition of continuing success of what we have been doing here at the school. We need to do a lot more, okay? We need to make the place much more diverse, both in the students and the faculty and the staff. We need to make the place a lot more inclusive. And so I want to make that remark because we're celebrating the 150 events. I don't want to say that we're celebrating everything that we have done in the last 150 years, but we're committed and we're working on it. And those of you that are here and we're working together, you know that we are committed to do better, and we're making progress in every aspect. So I wanted to make sure that I make that remark simply because it's the truth, okay? Now, okay, I'm done. So now it's time to introduce the highlight of the evening, and these are two powerhouse couple, I guess, which are also two inspiring and inspired CBS alums. So Benis Refkin, a graduate of 2012, founded her own executive leadership practice, coaching and training clients to be better leaders, business managers, and entrepreneurs. She's also the driving force of a book that she wrote with her husband, No One Succeeds Alone, which outlines their key stories for everything that they've done and life lessons learned. Her husband, Robert Refkin, graduate of 2003, also graduate of the college, is the co-founder and CEO of Compass, an incredibly successful global real estate technology company, and a true pioneer in industry. Now, Both of them represent the best of our Columbia Business School alumni, and it's fantastic to have you here as our first featured speakers in these events. And to moderate the discussion, we have none other but GT Spaniker, class of 2023. GT, when he came here, he created a podcast before the Come Up. And in this podcast, he showcases conversations with fellow students and peers to promote really connections within the Columbia community and sort of create a tighter bond. So who would be better to moderate the discussion with this powerhouse couple than GT? So the floor is yours. Thank you all for coming.
On. Hello. Wow. Incredible. Well, thanks so much for the introduction. Thank you all for being here. And thank you to our special guests. So let's jump right in. How does it feel to be back on campus?
Wow. This is a true honor. I don't even feel like we deserve to be up here. I mean, wow. Thank you for having us. And I'm just really jealous because you guys have this beautiful campus, and I love any opportunity to come back and just pretend to be one of you guys. So it's a real joy. Thank you for having us.
So for me, and I have nothing to add, but this is my first time here. She's been here before. This is so amazing, and so I'm very, very proud of Columbia for pulling this thing off. I remember hearing about it like decades ago, and
decades and decades ago, yeah.
And you did it.
Fantastic. So both of you have founded and run successful businesses. Was this the plan when you first came to CVS? And how did your time here prepare you for entrepreneurship?
Go first, okay. Ladies first. So definitely no. I am first generation Dominican. I'm actually first in my family to go to college. And I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I did get to go to NYU, but was not super strategic about internships and all of that. And my first job out of college was not as at a big name firm. So I just, I was just trying to just get to that next step every step of the way. I never let myself dream. I didn't dare to dream because I didn't even know it was possible. And when I thought about going back to business school, I was with Robert already, and he was a big supporter, and he believed in me, but it was not easy. Michael Robinson is a big part of my story. Columbia did not want to accept me. I mean, or at least it wasn't an easy decision. On paper, I didn't quite have all the beautiful, stats and numbers and GMAT scores and all of that you would hope to see, or what was, typical. But Michael went up to bat for me, and he convinced the school to let me join with a condition of taking calculus over the summer, which, thank you, Michael, because I actually aced that course and it was easy. But I share that only because I think what I got from my time at Columbia was confidence. I clearly didn't know what I was capable of, and I had a hard time with the feeling of needing to prove myself to others. Why do I need to keep proving myself? It's, it didn't feel good, but when I reflect back, I'm actually thankful for every opportunity I had to prove myself to others, mostly because I was actually proving something to myself. And over time of me rising to the occasion, rising to the challenge, and seeing once and for all, like, oh, I'm just as smart as everyone in these classes. That's the confidence I needed to then one day be able to go out there and start something on my own. And so I'm eternally grateful for that.
Fantastic, thank you.
When I joined Columbia, I definitely did not dream of starting a company. I knew how to take care of my mom, single parent family, just debt, no assets. And so all I was looking for was credibility. How could I work at the right companies, get the right credibility? So if if I failed, I could always have like minimal success to meet my financial obligations. And so the way the way that I really started Compass is I worked at McKinsey before business school, then Lazard afterwards, whereas there's only one other black person in the entire investment bank globally, but it's Vernon Jordan. And for anyone who knows him, he really helped me apply to be a White House fellow and then work at Goldman Sachs. But when I was at Goldman Sachs, there was a point where I realized, I was there 7 years, but there's a point where I realized the end of the road was near, right? And you have to know when it's time to move on. And I could have stayed there, but not really stay there. And so I tried to get a job working for a guy named Bayo Ogunlesi, who is one of the most successful black heads of private equity firms globally, called Global Infrastructure Partners. And I said, I want to work for him. And he, long story short, told me to go think of a business idea. And he said he saw me start a nonprofit called New York Needs You. We got an alum in the audience, right? He saw me run 50 marathons, won each stage, raise $1 million for nonprofits, and started a charter school in the Bronx. And he's like, Robert, I know that I want to see how you think about business and starting something entrepreneurially, and I'll use that as an interview to evaluate if you should work here or not. And they call it the case study. I don't know what he said. And I was like, okay. So I spent all these weeks trying to create this business idea to be evaluated, so I could work for him, because I'm not taking risk. And then he said, this is a great idea. How about you go do it? If you were my son, I'd tell you to go do it. I said, Bayo, no. I said, I got mom, I got dad. I'm trying to get married. I got married I proposed to her a couple weeks later. And actually, randomly, we saw him in the airport, and I didn't know if the ring was going to go off the alarm, and he saw me. He's like, watch out. But he said, I said, I can't take the risk. I said, I only did this for the interview. And he said, Robert, how about this? I'll be your first investor. I'll give you $500,000. And if you fail in a year, then I'll hire you. And I looked up and I was like, oh, how do you say no to that? I'll pay myself $75,000. Okay, sure, we'll figure it out. And so it's a long way of saying that Columbia Business School was an important thing for me as, again, I think we all have the, what do you call it? Imposter syndrome. And everyone, I think, has it. But Columbia made me feel like I had the credibility to do what I need to do. And I think it did help in a lot of those things. A lot of those things I mentioned would not have, none of them. It's a game of inches. One thing doesn't happen, that thing doesn't happen, so on. And so Columbia was pivotal to the road to Bayo Ogunlesi.
Incredible. So as much I'm sure CBS prepared you well for the business world, I know for a fact that a big part of your success is each other. How has your partnership helped you achieve your goals?
Okay, I guess answering all the questions first.
That's part of it.
Well, of course, I just mentioned that I probably wouldn't have applied to business school. I did have a mentor that we both have, Ray McGuire, who actually told me, you should apply. You're a woman of color, you need a graduate degree. But then I went home and mentioned it to Rob, and he's like, yes, you should do it. And
it was his idea?
It was his idea. Sorry.
I thought it was my idea.
But I didn't say this, but I went to NYU, but I graduated with $130,000 in student loans. And I had maybe $500 a month left over to eat after paying my student loans every month. And thank God I started dating him, because he started taking me out to dinner. And it was great. And when it was time to apply to business school, he said, we'll figure it out. And he actually covered the cost up front, until I did get a Goldman Sachs fellowship that
That is
paid for
important.
business school. So that was important.
Cover like half of it, right?
No, it covered all of second year
Yeah.
and like 50% of the first year.
Oh, we still had to pay the college debt.
Yeah.
Hey, the whole thing about after-tax money is crazy. Like, it is just...
But he believed in me, and I think I learned from him. Like, when I met him, he was a dreamer. His goals were out of this world, and it took me time, but over time, just being with you, I think, helped me dare to dream, helped me see more for myself and in our future, and then also just a joy of like being a team and helping you with your goals, and for that to flip a little, actually, it's been really fun. Yeah.
So I think for me, the partnership gave me a sense of, we all have imposter syndrome. There's a statement out there I really like, which is, this is who I am. Who I am is just fine. I'm not going to let anyone make me feel bad about who I am. And I sometimes try to get my daughters to say that. I think without knowing that statement, I think she made me feel good about who I am. Despite what I did or like what I would, the energy I'd bring into a room, all that passion was driven by a feeling that I don't belong, right? The amount I worked in these places, as Michael knows, is not like normal or acceptable by any. Like if my kids worked that hard, I'd say, well, we can't do this. But I lived and worked for years and years and years, because in a room in the old Columbia, a guy named Walter Booker said, when I was an SEO intern, he said, you're only here, to this group this big, you are only here today in this room as an intern, wherever you are on Wall Street, as a Merrill Lynch, because of the people like Vernon Jordan, Martha King, Ken Chenault, who worked their butts off to succeed. And because of their success, the people that have power said, I'm going to give someone else a shot. But if you do not get this internship and you fail, then not only are you not going to get a job, but they're going to close the doors for the people who came after you. And so is that general line of thinking and other things like that just had me working so hard. And I never felt like I belonged in any of these places. I didn't. And I think the people that I dated before always made me feel guilty for working as hard as I did. Like, you work too hard, you do this, you do that. And for the first time, she not only accepted me for exactly who I am, always thinking about the future, never thinking about the present. But she thought I was dreaming. I'll always appreciate that and love you for that.
Me too.
Let me say most simply, you can only be your best self if you are your authentic self. Otherwise, you're acting, and you can't like think and act at the same time. It's just too hard. And I was a good actor, but when through her and like through Compass, like I just was exactly who I am, and I realized that's actually what people want.
Amazing. So tell us a little bit more, because you talk a lot about being your authentic self. How did both of you find this, particularly in your professional lives? And what advice would you give to the audience as they enter their this new phase of their careers? Start with you, Robin.
Yeah. I mean, being your authentic self, it's actually really hard. And it sounds great. It's really hard to practice.
Does sound good.
It sounds great. Like, wow, everyone wants to do that. But I actually believe like your authentic self is not a static thing. It's not like something you figure out and you're done. It's a process, it's a journey. And as long as you're learning along the way, as long as you're pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone, trying new things, and then really taking the time to reflect and listen to yourself, how it feels. Is this right for me? Am I good at this, right? And then try to take that information to like make the next step. And so it's not an easy thing, and you're never done doing it. And so, but once you do learn, if you have like the courage to articulate it and voice it out and let the people around you know, it then gets so much easier because people start creating space around you where you can be just you.
Yeah, so look, I'll be transparent. I think that, like, I believe in work. I believe in working in person. I go all in everything that I do. And so on one hand, I think you have to be exactly who you are and be your authentic self. On the other hand, you have to work your butt off in a company and deliver for other people. And so I do worry that some people, like in a generation below, like they're not doing what the people before me did. And I don't have the words to crisply say it, but I do believe we have to, our entire population, we have to realize as much success as possible, again, for the people that come after us and honor the people that came before us. And so I think, I don't know the really good, it's complicated stuff, but.
That's really hard.
Like you know what I'm talking about,
I know
right?
what you're talking about.
Like,
you can't skip over like the hard work part. Like being your authentic self
Yeah, being
doesn't mean that you get to like not do the thing that you got to do. You got to earn your stripes. You got
Like I
to.
remember, like some of my friends way back in the day, they were like, "Oh, I don't want to work for anyone. I work for myself. I don't want to be my own man." Like I don't think that's being your authentic self. I think being your authentic self is when when you meet someone, and you're like, you can feel their energy, and like you ask them. There are two people you meet in an elevator. One, how's your weekend? Oh, it's just fine. The other one, how's your weekend? Oh, I met this wonderful person. Yes, she's blah blah blah. Like you could feel the energy. It's like being who you are and really showing your unique energy. But it doesn't mean not working your butt off to deliver for other people.
And it's continuously creating moments where you're proving yourself to others, to yourself, right? Like, and that does take work. And so when you get to this point in your career where you've done all of that, now you've earned this right to say, this is what I'm good at because I've tried this, and that. And I know now, this is my lane, this is where I'm gonna achieve greatness. But you can't rush that. Like, that is just part of the journey. Business school is like an incredible time to have like a break from all of that, reflect on the years you've had, before you got there, right? And then think about where you want to go. But it usually takes several years even after, right? To then be in opportunities where you're a leader, right? And you get to learn what kind of leader you are. There's no skipping any of it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that answer. The journey to success is never linear. Could you each share how you've bounced back with passion from a personal or professional obstacle?
You did
go.
So I actually share this story a lot with these speaking events I do actually for Compass, which is a real treat and an honor. But it's around the struggle I had with motherhood. So when we had our first child, I was working at Goldman, I was pregnant, and then stopped working there. And the idea was, okay, I'm gonna do this mom thing. I'm gonna do it full time. We're lucky enough that I could focus on our child and he could work, and it would, I didn't have to go right back to work and all of that. And I put all my type A energy into that child, and it was great. And we're doing it. And then Ruby came, our second child. And we didn't get to move into a bigger apartment, which is what I thought I needed. And I, all of a sudden, all that infrastructure and planning I had done, just none of that worked. All that type A energy, none of that was working. Like, none of that was working. I wasn't getting enough sleep, and just went into full, like, postpartum, like, almost psychotic break. I was literally hearing things at night. And it was like a full reckoning, this identity crisis that was building up. And finally, I could no longer control it. I called him crying because I just didn't know what to do. I was miserable. And it started with me getting a night nurse and all of that. But I started working with a therapist once I started getting enough sleep, and I realized through talking with her that I had been through this identity crisis because I had met this guy, like I mentioned, with big dreams, and it's like I jumped on this Rob Refkin train. And it was an incredible ride, but I wasn't in the driver's seat. I wasn't deciding how my life was gonna look. I was just going along for the ride. And it was this like full reckoning, like hitting bottom. I felt like I was in a rabbit hole. And getting out of a rabbit hole is, what do? You look around and it's really dark, but when you finally realize you're in a rabbit hole, you look up and you figure out, how do I get out of here? And the resilience, from just all those triumphs I had to do before, becoming a mom, I think were the things that I turned to and slowly piece myself back together and craft the life that I want. And that's how I actually found coaching. It was actually 6 years ago. I came back to business school. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I had my 5-year business school reunion over at Uris. I'm not here, unfortunately. I had my 10-year last year here, so it was great. And met with a leadership professor, Wadwa, and someone on his team said, you should consider coaching. And it was just like, I just needed to be around, all of you. I needed to be around the people who were thinking about their future just to kind of help spark some ideas. And I just, one step after another, found myself doing it and launching myself as a coach. And it has been a true calling. Like, I absolutely love it. And I'm going to be doing it forever. And I wouldn't have been able to figure that out if it weren't for Columbia Business School. So
Thank you so much for sharing.
yeah.
Look, first of all, I feel fortunate and lucky for everything that I've ever had. But I do think, like, I've had many more failures than successes. I was a C student in high school, which for me was like, compared to everyone else, was failing. But I got into Columbia. I was a C student in college at Columbia, and not C+, I mean C. Yeah, but I got into McKinsey. At McKinsey, they did not let me stay, and they would not invite me back, but I got into Columbia Business School. At Columbia Business School, I think I did somewhat okay, but I didn't graduate with a job. I had to work as an intern after graduating at Lazard. So the level of, it was actually such a scary thing. I blocked it out of my mind. I didn't remember that until Chris Lee, my friend, told me that. I was like, oh my God, I forgot. I graduated without a job working at Lazard as an intern. And then, because, then I got the job, but I could tell I couldn't really be what I wanted to be. So it's like, okay, White House Fellows. White House Fellows is only 1 year. Goldman private equity, but wasn't really working. Became chief of staff to the president. Then I could tell that wasn't working. Hey, Bio Ogunlesi, hey, can I get a job? This whole thing. Okay, sure, I'll start a company if I get a job.
The ultimate salesman, clearly. I can convince all these people.
But my point is, there's a life of feeling like failure. Then you go to Columbia, and I was like, okay, I'm all in. For the first time, I'm not going to think about anything else. I start these things on the side. I'm going to cut everything off, which was now 10 years ago. And I'm
20.
From Compass.
Oh, Compass.
Or Urban,
sorry,
yeah,
sorry.
Compass.
I thought you said Columbia.
I'm only going to do, maybe I did. I'm only going to focus on Compass. But the story of an entrepreneur is just a constant failure. That's all it is. And you're just like bouncing back with passion again, and again, and again. But it's like, I would describe it emotionally as you climb a hill, like you're climbing a hill. You're like, oh my God, I'm there. Oh my God, it's so hard. I'll be there. And right when you get there, there's like another hill. Like it's a nonstop hill. And then they get to fall down, you go back up. And then the Compass goes public. It's almost like a $10 billion company, and it's a Fortune 500 company. And things are on top of the world. But then mortgage rates go from an all-time low to a 20-year high in less than 9 months. The transactions decline in this industry faster than any time in history faster than even the global financial crisis. And things are tough. But like, how do you get through it? One, there's two things. One, my dreams are always greater than my present. So it doesn't matter if you're good or down, whatever, you're dreaming big. And that gives you the energy to move forward. Two, what I noticed is no matter how bad things are, or whenever it's like, everyone's complaining, I'm like, well, the good news is, right? There's actually, like, I'm starting to notice it in different people. Like, because there's always like challenging things, but sometimes people will be like, well, the good news is, but I realize for myself, when I say the good news is, I actually do not know what the good news is. I say the good news is, and while I'm saying it, I'm thinking of what the good news is. And so I would just urge you to do that for yourself. One, dream big, because it will give you the energy to move forward. And don't be scared of dreaming. But then two, when there's a hard thing, just say, well, the good news is, and then think about what comes up after that, because there's always a positive side.
Wow, what an incredible way to bring this conversation to a close. Thank you so much for speaking so candidly and sharing such gems with the audience. Thank you once again. Let's give them a round of applause.
I guess I'll stay here. We're gonna move over. But one thing that resonated with me is you can only be your best self when you are your authentic self. Thank you for that, Jim, because I think we're beneficiaries of you all digging into being your authentic selves tonight. And I know I could see some of myself in your story, and I feel like many of us in this room here tonight could echo the same. So thank you, thank you, thank you for your time and your authenticity tonight. And for all of you, what a way to kick off this celebration. Everyone give yourselves a round of applause tonight. What a milestone to not only be a witness to this experience, but also a participant in it. This is just the beginning. We thank you all for coming out tonight. Thank you for this informational and inspiring fireside chat. Thank you for your enthusiasm in the audience. And I'll pass it over to Professor Akinola to close us out tonight.
And I want to thank you, Haley. She scares me. Do you know this is an Emmy Award-winning TV journalist? So she's like, are we taking the mic? Are we moving left? Are we moving right? I'm like, okay, what else do I need to do now, Haley? What else do I need to do? Thank you. Yeah, I'm a little novice here. But thank you, Haley, and thanks to all of you. This is just the start. We have several marquee events this year. We want to see this number quadruple at each of these different events. And so I hope that you will join us in them because this is about you. So these are the many things that we're doing. And we want to be able to honor you. We want to be able to include you in the stories that we're telling because we are ultimately going to be creating a digital archive that captures this history, the present, the past, and also the future. So make sure that you tell your friends, tell those around you, tell those you haven't spoken to in a while to come back for this special time. And with that, we will be having a reception just up the stairs. So I hope you come to that. And thank you once again for joining us. And this reception is featuring treats from our local community. So it's extra special. So don't just run out. Go up there. Thanks again.